There is so much research connecting mindfulness and inner peace, providing a deeper understanding of ourselves and others, which leads to a life of physical and emotional well-being and better prepares us for the inevitable challenges that life provides. As someone who tends to be on the anxious end when the baton of life was passed to me, I can deeply appreciate this connection and its evidence-based leverage. I know it works because I've experimented on myself, as well as try to encourage my graduate students to practice a brief few minutes of deep breathing at the start of every class. Some love it, and some, well, would rather scroll on social media for the few minutes at the start of each class, while the rest of us are putting our busy days aside so we can focus for the entirety of the class. Just that few minutes of deep breathing allows our bodies to recalibrate, enough so that we can concentrate better on the task at hand. So many cultures have created a beginning and an end to a process which mark that in-between segment where our minds are freed up to focus on exactly the present. This is something I learned so much later in life and would have so greatly benefited from learning it and beginning a personal practice many years earlier than I did. Those of us who do practice sometimes opt to use outside stimuli like music or meditation apps or pictures of peaceful settings, artwork, and more. It is deeply individual as to what can bring peace and restore equilibrium in our lives, and having a practice ensures that we refill our personal fuel tanks. We can't control our outer environment, whether it is current politics, divisive relationships, injustices we witness, or losses we have endured. But we can control our inner world if given the tools to do so. When we approach crises, large or small, with an inner calm, we are better prepared to manage it and better prepared to approach it with compassion. In contemplating this introduction, I was struck by my need to reflect on the topic in a way that almost forced my inner nature to stop and really take in what I was writing, to think and feel the importance of inner peace. Welcome to Small and Gutsy, our podcast featuring nonprofits and social enterprises under $10 million. My name is Dr. Laura Shirk-Witkoff, and I'm excited and proud to be your host. We hope you'll love the stories as much as we do, and perhaps you will find needed services, a job, volunteer, invest in, or donate. Small and Gutsy is not just a podcast, but a 501c3 nonprofit. Our vision is to spotlight every smaller nonprofit and social enterprise to raise their visibility. So please help me with our vision and send me any organization you'd like featured to laura@smallandgutsy.org. Finding inner peace is a process that leads to a practice. There are important rituals that guide us in self-discovery. Derived from the Sanskrit word for circle, the mandala is a spiritual and ritual symbol in Hinduism and Buddhism, representing the universe. It is a sacred art form that connects us to our inner selves and the world around us. Their profound wisdom and tranquil messages serve as a powerful medium to contemplate and find peace within. Mandalas are typically circles with repeating symmetrical shapes and are considered a sacred symbol. In Sanskrit, mandala translates to sacred center or circle. Mandalas symbolize harmony and unity and represent that everything is connected, which I just love. Pema Chodron, the incredible American-born Tibetan Buddist and ordained nun, who is soulful and wise, shared, each person's life is like a mandala, a vast, limitless circle. We stand in the center of our own circle, and everything we see, hear, and think forms the mandala of our life. I love that imagery so much. One organization has discovered that bringing in the concept of inner peace through an evidence-based curriculum using the mandala as a cornerstone enables youth to build and strengthen their capacity to manage stress and conflict in new ways, giving them lifelong skills that serve to build a more compassionate society. Building that society begins with our youth. Tools for Peace is a mental wellness program for youth that provides curriculum to grow compassionate minds. Their mission is to inspire kindness and compassion in everyday life. Their mindfulness-based social-emotional learning programs support mental health, academic and professional success, and community health and well-being. Studies show that the Tools for Peace curriculum improves focus, conflict resolution skills, and confidence, and reduces stress in participants. They have served well over 1,500 students within LA Unified School District, and there may be more. That might be an outdated number. Their curricula includes school-based programs, summer teen camps, and compassionate leadership programs, and mindfulness programs for everyone. Tools for Peace was founded in 2000 by the Venerable Lama, and I probably get this wrong, so I know my guest will correct me, Chodak Gutsy in an effort, did I get it? Yeah, in an effort to provide those of all, and I love this so much, cultural, ethnic, and religious backgrounds with practical methods to cultivate compassion, peace, and well-being, seeing that the root of all suffering begins with our own negative states of mind. Lama Gyatso wanted to show people how it was possible to use the traditions which he had brought from his ancient Tibetan culture to create peace within our torn communities. He would communicate his vision in a way that did not require people to be part of any religious group, ethnicity, or political party, that would speak to the most basic qualities of kindness and compassion in all people. I am incredibly excited to introduce my two guests today. Mamie Donsker, Executive Director, who graduated from the Mindful Schools Mindful Teacher Certification Program. She received a BFA from the Rhode Island School of Design, and having lived in Boston for 30 years before moving out to LA, I really love Rhode Island, so I so appreciate that amazing school. And an MFA from Virginia Commonwealth University. She has extensive experience teaching mindfulness and art to people of all ages and backgrounds. She worked as the assistant professor of painting and printmaking at Virginia Commonwealth University in Doha, Qatar. I hope I got that right. She has taught under-resourced youth in Los Angeles for over 10 years through Tools for Peace. Mamie developed content for I love this too, Stop, Breathe, and Think curriculum, which I looked at on the website. I thought was fab. Worked with the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, directs facilitation for camps, workshops, and training programs. And my other guest, Abby Posner, has been the music director since 2010. Abby joined the Tools for Peace Mindfulness Facilitator team in 2016. I think they're probably incredibly lucky to have her. Abby studied music at Cal Arts in 2006 and has been working as a musician in LA since she graduated college. She is music teacher, composes for film and TV, and plays her indie folk band. And I hope I got this right, Abby. Abby and the Myth. I hope that's right.
Actually, that is an older bio, but it's just Abby Posner now.
Abby Posner.
Okay.
I thought, because when we talked, but then I thought maybe I was wrong when I read it on the website.
But that was a part of my history, the Abby and the Myth band, but it's just me.
So we'll acknowledge that's part of your history. And you're an active member of Inside LA and Spirit Rock Meditation Center. I hope that's still true. So yes. I have to say one thing before I start with Abby and Mamie, and I'm so thrilled to have you guys here, is you all don't know this who are going to listen to the podcast, but we had a horrific start with sound. And I thought to myself, I am so grateful that this happens to be the topic of Tools for Peace and Mandala and deep breathing, and because they were the calmest two people you can imagine when we started this. And I'm thinking anybody else would be like, I am so done with this woman. She can't get her sound under control. She can't get her stuff to work. Well, we got it all to work. You are so great.
We're riding the waves. That's what it's all about, riding the waves.
I just want to begin by saying, Laura, wow, that was beautiful. Thank you for that introduction. We don't even need to be here anymore.
You just said it all. We're out.
I feel so seen right now.
Yeah, that was a beautiful introduction, Laura. Thank you.
So meaningful. Yeah.
Thank you. That makes me feel so good, because I always try to insist on reading something, because I do try to dive into what you're doing. I try to learn as much as I can within my limited time constraints, and then apply it to something either I've experienced or something I try to practice myself. Yeah. And this was such a good reminder that I usually do deep breathing, certainly with my students, but I do it by myself every night before I go to bed, or if I wake up and need to go back to sleep. And a very good friend of mine who is fantastic and walked me through a mindfulness program she teaches. And this is when I was going through active cancer treatment. And she told me recently, she still sometimes has things she has to calm down, and she does deep breathing. But when her mind is racing, I love this, and I've started to use it. She tells herself, not now, not now. And
Mm.
I want to share that. And her name is Lisa Howe, and she has a practice, and she's fab. I just have to tell you, she's
You could
great. Yeah,
add
go
a
ahead.
self-compassion component to that and say, not now, sweetheart. No.
Oh, I love that. And hold my heart and do some deep breathing. Oh, maybe you just made my day. Thank you. I need
Yeah.
this. Thank you. I think we all do, actually. And so throughout this, you've sort of thought about, which I absolutely love, that you might want to begin this podcast before you two kind of step in and talk about the program and actually walk us through a mindfulness moment, which I think would be utterly amazing. So take it away. I don't know, maybe if you want to introduce Abby, if you want to do it.
Well, thank you for having us on the show. This is such an honor. So, what we do with our kids, usually before every session, every curriculum starts, is we begin with a check-in. And I just wanted to guide us through a very, very short check-in. Just everyone listening, I think this can be very beneficial. So we're going to begin by just closing our eyes. And taking a few deep breaths. And we're just going to check in with our bodies and kind of be our own little detectives. You can just ask yourself in this moment, how am I feeling physically? Maybe the body is feeling really strong and energized. Maybe the body is feeling a little tired, not so great. Maybe the body's feeling neutral. Just noticing without any judgment, being present with where we are. And now we're just going to take a moment here to ask ourselves, how am I feeling mentally? Maybe the mind is really racing and planning ahead for next week or next month. Maybe the mind is very still, like a still river with very little ripples. And maybe the mind is kind of neutral. Not great, not bad, just right in the middle. We're just noticing. And now we're just going to take a moment to check in with our hearts. And if it's helpful for you, you can even put your hand on your heart. And we're just going to ask ourselves in this moment, how am I feeling emotionally? Often we go through the day without even asking ourselves how we're doing or noticing what's happening inside. We're just going to find a few emotional words to describe where we are in this moment. And there's room for everything here. There's room for sadness, joy, anxiety. We're just holding it without judgment. And now we're going to rest here for a moment and let all of our thoughts go. Watching the thoughts disappear like a cloud disappearing in the sky, and returning to our breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and return to the room.
It was so beautiful. I actually have to say one thing before you start. I started to get teary.
Me too.
And
I've
I want
got
to tell
tears.
you, you did
Right here.
too?
Yeah,
Oh my
got
gosh.
'em.
Oh, Mamie,
Because
I'm so happy.
there's a lot to feel right now.
There's a lot to feel right
Yeah.
now.
I am so grateful. I think the place where I started to get teary, and then I want you to talk about the program because gosh, I wish I had learned this as a youth, is the don't judge. You can feel whatever you can feel. And the minute you said don't judge, I welled up and I thought, oh my, because I grew up in a judgmental household and probably have done some of that myself, although luckily my kids don't feel that way, thank goodness. I mean, I think they just would laugh at me. They will march to their own tune, and I'm grateful. But, and also because of our current environment of pure judgment, the word just is like big.
It's
So
big.
it's big. So that's,
Yeah.
I don't know, Mamie, why do you want to share yours? And then we'll go into the
Yeah.
program.
Yeah. So usually when we do this check-in practice, we all just share a little bit, and I'll just share mine for the sake of time. But so we check in mentally, and when we have more time, physically, emotionally, and sometimes we even share one thing that we're grateful for. And we do this with young people. We do it in corporations. We do it, at universities and hospitals, and oh my gosh. And I just now, checking in physically with my hand on my heart, I felt my heart beat. And my mom has been having some heart health scares lately, and it just choked me up. And I think too, just creating the space of like allowing, my gosh, like if we create space and time within the day to feel what we're feeling without judgment, with kindness, with a gentle awareness, we allow these thoughts and feelings to move through us because they're not meant to stay. And when we kind of replay that script in our head, and it all kind of builds up in our minds and our hearts and our bodies in different ways, we really suffer. And it not only affects us, but it affects the people we love. It affects our environment and our community. And because of that, it's also the opposite, that like when we allow, and those hard feelings will arise, but they'll also change. And when one of our chapters is on change, which is something I'm taking comfort in right now in hard times in this country, in this world. Just that there's nothing more natural than change. And hard feelings and thoughts and, health scares arise, and they also pass because there's nothing more natural than change itself. It's like one moment passing to another. Without change, there wouldn't be life. And
So true.
and so I love check-in practice because it's this time to connect with community, first connect with yourself and then connect with others, and just be like, you know what, today I'm really good, or today I'm not okay. And it's a beautiful way to make vulnerability safe. Yeah.
I love what you said. And I also feel like the same is true when we're in a peaceful, good moment. We want to take that in and enjoy it because life is that roller coaster. When we're not in a good place, it's so hard to imagine that we'll ever be in a good place again. And that's what keeps us stuck in those sort of negative thoughts. And so I love taking time to just appreciate them, acknowledge them, and it doesn't allow us to stay stuck in them when we do that. And I think that's the piece that sometimes we just want to fight and instead embrace and just sit and move forward. Abby, I don't know because you were leading us. You did such a beautiful job, and the guitar was just
Thank
so
you.
lovely. I was like, "Can I take you everywhere with
Oh,
me? Could we record that?"
you sure can. For a price. For a price. No.
You're so cute. Are you able, because I know when I'm leading a little bit of deep breathing for my grad students, I'll go, I'm in the process of, verbally leading them through, and I have to stay focused on that. And at the same time, I try to manage my own body and breathing and thinking and, letting, being present. So I don't know whether you have a check-in or whether you sort of get stuck in the place of guiding.
Mm. I think I try and attune myself to the room. So if I notice that there's suffering happening among the kids and it's a heavy day, I really try and wrap the check-in around that almost like a blanket, like having like whether it's stretching the music out a little bit, if I feel like they don't need dialogue as much and they just need like the sensations of sound, I'll make that more present. And I'm kind of locked in with them. So I feel like I'm checking in with myself too, but very aware of the room and the space and what the kids need in that moment.
So, Mamie, you're the executive director. Do you want to start, and then I'll hand it over to Abby and just share a bit about the program, any additional information that I may have missed. You may have served more students than what was on your website.
So I am executive director. I have been for, I think, going on 3.5 years. I'm proud of myself because I never imagined I would be in a role like this. I'm an artist. I'm a mindfulness teacher, but my heart really is in teaching. And really what happened is I found tools for peace and I fell in love. I mean, how could you want to do anything else when you find something that really helps people? You need to support it. Lama Gyatso, who founded Tools for Peace, he said, it's possible that one day you'll be reaching people all over the world, but what's most important is go deep wherever you are. And that starts with yourself, because if we don't do that personally, then we're not doing our job in the outside world. And that's how the mandala is really what it really means, is the center of the mandala represents inner peace. And then all of the surroundings, almost like a flower, that circular structure, like you said, is that interconnectedness. We've really focused on the Los Angeles Unified School District, and we've been there for about 15 years. Our students are incredible, and they have come back to, I've had students from the 6th grade in Los Angeles who are now adults, and they're directing programs. And it just speaks to how effective the curriculum is, because it just becomes near and dear to everyone's heart. So they just want to give back.
So when students go through this and they start, let's say, in middle school, which is wonderful. I actually think elementary is even better, but if we can get them at middle school, we'll do it. Is it a 1-year program? Is it an ongoing program? Because even though it's a particular curriculum, there's practice involved that is continuous. So how does that work?
Yeah. We're in after school programs. We have clubs after school. We work with Lacer after school programs primarily as a partner.
Mhm.
And so it's a really safe, vibrant community. And our students, they get certified as compassionate leaders. They then go on to, they get a full scholarship to our summer teen camp. It's so interesting because it's at camp where
Great.
they really put their guard down. And then they're welcome once once they've earned that scholarship, we try and welcome them back to camp. And many of them come back then as counselors and then even facilitators. Yeah, but they practice at home and they practice, you know, we have, you know, meditations and just using their mindfulness practice. Many of them will start meditating with their families and in their communities. It's beautiful.
So there you're kind of doing train the trainer in a way because you're training them,
Hmm.
and it's sort of like a pebble in water. The more you do, the more it spreads.
Yeah.
Abby, jump in. So you became a facilitator, right?
Yeah, so I actually started this journey helping a dear friend of mine, Lynn Earls, who was at the time doing music at Tools for Peace. And I just wanted to go and see what it was about. So I was assisting her. And I just immediately, like Mamie, I fell in love with the curriculum. I fell in love with the kids. I fell in love with the space, the
Mm.
environment. At that point, Lynn was ready to, move on and do other things. And I then became the musical director. So I was the musical director for multiple years in a row. And what we do in the music class is we actually write songs about the information we're taking in from the workshops and from the curriculum. And the kids just write. They go to town. They start writing about commonality of suffering, about change, about compassion, jealousy, equanimity. All of the things that we're working on through the day. And then we perform at the last day of camp. And it's this really beautiful, cathartic moment for the kids. And it brings them closer. I feel like that's the moment that they kind of bond is through creation and through music and through writing and singing. We've been doing that. But then I thought, gosh, I want to put more on my plate. I trained to be a facilitator. And Mamie and I have been head facilitators together side by side, and I started leading the workshops and the curriculums. And I'm a touring musician full time, and so this is a real treat for me to add this to my life because it's a part of my practice, and I just deeply care about the youth. I also, I work for Trevor Project, and
Ah,
we have a really big
fabulous.
population of LGBTQ kids that see a role model in me. And I mean, I didn't have that when I was young. I didn't have somebody that looked like me, that was peaceful and
Wow.
calm, and someone that I could look up to and have a safe space with. And so I'd like to think that I'm hopefully providing some stability and strength for the LGBTQ community, the kids. Yeah.
I, I I love so much of what both of you have said. I got to figure out like where do I begin to comment. So one is that what's beautiful is that you can stand up for people you either represent or you want to support or think there's an injustice, and you can do it in a way that fits your own personality and style and do it in a way that's peaceful. So it's such a
Yeah.
great, I love what you're doing because it is role modeling where you can stand up for something and you figure out your own way to do that when you're in a place of calm. So I think it's just phenomenal. And when kids are in the program, the after school program, they all know about the camp because it sounds like that's sort of a bonus. If you go through the training, this is what you get at the end, which is a great incentive, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
we've had sleepaway camps in the past, and then lately, we have a day camp in in Pasadena. It's a beautiful environment. It's at the Maxwell House in Pasadena, and it feels like you're getting away and you're on a beautiful retreat. And our kids need that. But, it feels very much like a meditation retreat, but also it feels like camp. It's fun. We're not silent. We're laughing. We're making art. We're writing music. We're integrating mindfulness into all of the arts, and we're journaling. We're having discussions, yoga, and meditation. Yeah.
Hmm. I love that. What a great way to spend a week to really to recharge. So a question about the music, because they produce at the end and have that as a final product, This is just my little consulting hat, and I'm sure you've thought about this. Do you ever think of putting those songs together
Like a
in an
compilation
in
or a
a CD?
playlist?
No, not a CD
No,
anymore.
yeah. Hey, I'm a child of the
That's
90s. I love
that's
me some
great.
cassettes, some playlists, some like burn some CDs.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm like, oh, I'm so dating myself. But it would also be a great, because I'm also a consultant, it would be a great fundraiser
Cool. It would.
because I'm sure the music is great. And so, sorry, I can't help myself. I do this a lot
Oh,
when I'm on the podcast, but I think it's really because first of all, the kids created this. Second of all, it's your direction and you're already in the music world. And so for you to be able to translate that and for then kids to see what they've worked on as a group and see it produced into a real tangible thing would be amazing. And then they sell it, and they
I
can
love
raise
it.
money for for the nonprofit Tools for
Yeah.
Peace, because then it helps with the next
that's
group.
right.
And you can sell them on your website, or if it's a downloadable, you know this but way better than I do. Of course, I'd get the CD, which what I do with it, I don't know, because I don't have a CD player, but if you do, but there's downloadable music.
Hey, Lori, you should join the board. You've got so many ideas.
Yes, come on. You know you want to. Come drink the Kool-Aid.
I do. I, I know. I have to deal with my own nonprofit, but however, I love partnering with folks. So if you do think about this idea and do it, I would love to put your downloadable connected to a link to your website on my website. And, not that I have a zillion visitors, but it's a great way to start like pushing it out. And every summer you get a new piece of music, and so people can either subscribe to it or you do it as go back in history and pull all those, because I'm sure they're fabulous.
For that, I'll bring my recording gear next time and just get it all captured. Because what we've done in the past is have someone film it. And that's kind of a cool thing too. That could be, just a little package, bonus package. It's a great idea.
I want to talk a little bit about the personal mandalas that people make, because to me, when I was reading about it and looking into it, I thought that is such a beautiful way of translating art again, a piece of art, because you're choosing colors and you're thinking about you're that inner circle, and then how are things connected in the different areas of what they mean. But it's very personal. So you're creating your own personal mandala that sometimes I know you then, if it's done in sand or with different things, you get, you then don't have it to take away. But some are printed out and you can color them. And I did a podcast recently, if you want to listen to it, of a group in LA called Piece by Piece, but PIECE, working with individuals who are at risk of homelessness or homeless to try to create revenue for them. And they do it with mosaics. So it would be very interesting for you guys to connect, which I'm going to make happen, and to think about a mosaic mandala, because there's probably a way to do it. And so I'm going to connect you guys. But I think that I want to hear more about that and how kids understand and think about it.
And I can kind of dive a little bit into a bit of the curriculum here, but the center of the mandala is inner peace. And then all of the surroundings are different contemplations that can then lead us to recognizing, to using our mindfulness practice to recognize innate quality attitudes within us that are compassionate and kind, and um, and then we also teach what gets in the way of those positive attitudes, and that's within us too. But it's something that it isn't a fixed state. It's something that we can, um, it's something that we can work with. And so, for example, when we teach compassion, we also teach attachment. That, sometimes it's like compassion is like there's so much generosity in just identifying, like taking the time to notice how somebody suffers and then putting yourself in their shoes and even experiencing the humility of I'll never really know what it's like to be them. And then the positive wish, like may they be free from that suffering. It can be as simple as a wish, it can be a call to act. But then what gets in the way of that compassion? And so the mandala, all of the petals of the mandala in ancient Tibetan culture, this is what they represent. And so, for example, this would happen to me when I was going to teach tools for peace in schools, where, I'd be driving and then, but I'd see a houseless person. And then it's like, do you open yourself up to practice compassion? Or is the music in the car and the temperature just right? And I've got my Starbucks and there's no shame here, but do I put my blinders on, Or do I turn toward it and do I just take a moment at that red light to just like imagine what it's like? And to take myself out of my own little bubble of everything is just the way I like it. My attachment to expanding my awareness. And the beautiful thing about everything the mandala teaches, and this is really integral to the curriculum, is that once you get a handle on compassion, like first it's like, well, how can we have compassion for ourselves? How can we have compassion for everyone else? But then we also start to challenge the curriculum start and the mandala challenges others in that it's like, okay, now how far does that compassion go? Can it go a little farther? Can it go a little farther? Are there really limits to how much compassion we can have? Or is that a mental construct? So we actually traditionally in the mandala, compassion is great compassion for all beings. The chapter on joy, the opposite of jealousy, is appreciative joy or rejoicing in the happiness and the accomplishments of others. And that's also boundless. We call it boundless joy. So everything suggests in the mandala that the only limits are the ones that we've put in our own hearts and minds. With the sand mandala, it's not something that to be had. It's something that in the end we have a dissolution ceremony where we all come together and we mix it all up and we put it in a body of water. So if we have camp up at Aribod, the Tibetan Cultural Preservation Center there that Lama Gyatso also founded, we put it in the stream. If we have it at Big Bear Retreat Center, we put it in the lake at Big Bear. And here we would put it in the ocean. But that way, we're letting go. So we're embracing change. So we're still, otherwise we're going to get attached to this mandala. And it's just going to create more of that, just like we don't want to feed more shame, bring more shame into the world. We're really looking at like, oh, okay, so if I'm serious about contemplating change and being more flexible and open to the changes of life, and that everything is going to change, everything is impermanent, we're going to put this mandala into a body of water. Everyone takes a little bit home with them, but we put it into a body of water to dedicate it to everyone because it starts with us. The Shitra Mandala that the curriculum is based on is right here in this mind, heart, and body. It's what we develop through meditation, journaling, discussion, and mindfulness practice. And then the next thing is to dedicate it to basically lift up any barriers that keep us from having a really open and spacious mind and heart to have compassion for everyone.
It's so interesting, and I haven't studied this, so I'm really limited with my knowledge. I think what prevents us often and this is more global, in situations, and it could be local, I don't mean it that way, I meant more macro thinking, that we stay in that bubble or that comfortable car that with the Starbucks and the whole thing. And I love that you said there's no shame because I think there can be guilt associated with that. I think we stay in it because we're afraid that if we reach out, how much of us will be taken. And how do we keep a boundary? Or if we reach out and we don't understand somebody's circumstances, how do we allow them to live with integrity and still have ourselves intact? So I think there, I don't know, but I think that fear is a killer sometimes. I think it's a killer for us physically, mentally, emotionally. It stops us. It's when at the beginning, when I brought up my dear friend and who taught me when I went through a meditation mindfulness program with her, and I love her. When she said "not now," you added "not now, sweet." And so I love that can be parallel at the same time. And I think you can feel as close as you can to someone's heartache and pain without either getting swallowed up where fear will take over and push away, but where you can wish compassion and then maybe take action where action can be warranted sometimes and is needed. I'm sure kids think about this and maybe have different words to use, but that mandala, they then think about themselves and those areas. And then do they start to, once they create it, they sort of realize that it's all interconnected. And then they start to recognize that they can hold both things at the same time. I'd love to ask you one other question, which is, well, I'd love to hear kind of an aha moment where you don't have to share names or any of that, but sort of an aha moment where maybe you hadn't anticipated or you thought this process would unfold and it sort of surprised you in this sort of beautiful way. I don't know if there's a particular aha moment for either of you.
Abby and I were just talking about this with Jamil, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where
Yep.
so Jamil is one of our students. We had him since the 6th grade. He came to our camps, and he's from Northern California, and went to every camp until his senior year of high school when he was too old to go anymore. And our last camp reunion went right before his last year. We were invited to have our reunion in Northern California, and there was a ropes course there. And so here we had been talking about mindful breathing and mindfulness and meditation, compassion, and then he's about to zip line, and I'm standing below and he's up above. And when you're up there on that platform high up, your knees are like shaking. And you can't jump if you're tight. You can't jump if you're in your stress response. You can't jump if you're holding your breath.
Mm,
You can't jump if so
mm-hmm,
what do you do? It's like all you
mm-hmm.
have is your breath. And so after all of that, Jamil shouted down to me and he
Breath.
said,
Wow.
"Miss Mamie, this mindful breathing thing is no joke." And then just
I
gathering
love
his
it.
breath, and it's
I
through a
love
regulated
that.
body. Even that one moment when we have, like, what is courage? Courage is regulating your nervous system,
Mm-hmm.
finding inner wisdom, relaxing into the fear,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and taking that big breath and leaping.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And plunge. God, that's beautiful. I love that so much because I would have my whole body would
yeah.
be shaking because
Mine
I'm
mine was.
afraid of heights. I would be like, but I love that because yeah, and you did it anyway. And so what a testament to the work that you're doing. And for him to say that, it's now embedded and ingrained in who he is.
And it
that will
will
never
never
leave
leave
him,
us.
that
Isn't
Mm-hmm.
that
experience. It's beautiful.
amazing? Jamil's lesson
Right,
Yeah.
then
that's even
It's true.
better. Right.
internally,
Yes,
then
yes.
reflected outward, and
Hmm.
it teaches me all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Abby, do you have a aha moment outside of that one? That's a beautiful one.
That's a beautiful one. I have several. I think the most aha moments have been in the music class because, I have two that come to mind. A lot of the kids come in pretty quiet and introverted and not really feeling open to share.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly, when we start writing, they come up to me in the middle of the class and start sharing their work and their writing with me. And
Mm-hmm.
then they're able to like actually share it with the whole group. and
Yeah.
it's really cool to watch. We have this thing where we like kind of freestyle. Like I'll set up a drum. I'll be like, okay,
Love it.
let's just like, if you have two lines, let's just share it. And the shyest kids will get up there and everyone is clapping for them
I
and
love
cheering
it.
them on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful to watch them come out of their shell and feel safe in that space
Mm-hmm.
of music.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of those moments with shyer kids feeling
It's
safe.
great.
And then
I love it.
I yeah, it's really cool. And then I have a lot of different moments with kids that are just trying to figure themselves out, like there's a lot, obviously we all know middle school, high school is a time of kind of questioning things, sexuality, what is gender, what is this, what does it look like, how does it feel, am I this, am I that, and kids feel really safe to come to me and just talk, and I never share anything about myself or pressure them to do anything except just hold space for them and to listen and to allow them to kind of put the puzzle pieces together for themselves. And so that's kind of been a really cool moment for me as a facilitator to just hold space for some of the kids that are maybe questioning their sexuality. Maybe they don't feel safe talking to their parents. They don't feel safe coming out to their friends. And so there have been multiple situations. I'm honored to say that kids have felt really safe coming out to me. And we hold that, and we don't do anything, force anything, say anything, you should do this, you should do that. It's just holding space for their feelings. And that's
It's
been really cool.
I mean, that's so beautiful because that is all they need at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
They need to have someone witness what they're feeling or experiencing or thinking about or questioning or whatever it is, because they nobody else in their space may be able to do that. So I know we're going to end our podcast soon, but before we end, I have a round of quick and gutsies for each of you to have an answer. You can also pass if you want to. So are you guys ready for your
Yes.
quick and
Yes.
gutsies? Great. So what is at the top of your wish list for tools for peace? However, the answer can't be money or funding, because of course every nonprofit wants that. So what's the top of your wish list for tools for peace?
I keep thinking of what John Lennon said, declare peace just like you would declare war. Declare it, value it. I want us to see it. I want us to embody it. I want us to experience it now in the small moments so that we can visualize it in the world. It feels like every 6 months our back is up against the wall. But this really works. And I want tools for peace to continue as long as possible, especially during hard times. So may this be so. Yeah.
Declare peace. I love it. Okay, Abby, you're on. What's yours?
So I would really hope that this curriculum could be in every single school. I mean, I just people being able to access this curriculum is really important. We need more social emotional learning in schools, and not just calling it that, but just
Really
like
doing it.
this is what we're doing. We're opening the book and we're diving in, and then we're embodying it. And this curriculum is it's just so important. So I would hope that it could be kids that don't have access to it could.
So, what makes Tools for Peace gutsy? Because you're definitely a gutsy organization. What makes you
Mm,
gutsy?
that's a great question.
Kindness is gutsy.
I was gonna say vulnerability.
Mm,
Yeah,
Uh,
vulnerability,
that's
kindness.
a great.
Yeah.
And
I
I think what I was gonna say was that like instead of people mistake kindness and compassion as being a doormat, when
Yep.
really it's our greatest strength.
What is something that outsiders or insiders don't know about Tools for Peace?
A lot, a lot.
That's a really
We
good one.
need we need more awareness.
Yeah. I think now they know a lot more after listening to this.
We need people to subscribe to our mailing list on our website, follow us on social
Hmm.
media. We need support, all of it.
Great.
We're small but mighty, and we need more support.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you were to think of a song, this may be more for Abby, but maybe not. If you were to think of a song that describes Tools for Peace, what would it be?
All You Need Is Love.
Ah, that's so great. Perfect song. You probably also have written a song that could be a theme song too. Mamie, do you have, yeah,
There have been some
yeah, do you
songs.
want to name
Yeah.
one or two of those?
Well, Mamie's
could be
favorite
great.
songs of mine are all kind of mindfulness based and embracing the different parts of ourselves. There's a song that I wrote called Low, 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 where it is basically having a cup of tea with your sadness and your depression, getting to know it a little bit better rather than suppressing it and making it disappear. Just kind of looking it in the eye and actually seeing that it's beautiful, that you kind of want it to be present
Mhm.
because you can also watch it change and grow and move and shift. And so I would say Low, Low, Low is a pretty close to Tools for PC song.
I love that so much. Mamie, would you agree or you have a different selection?
Oh yeah, and Abby has this song called Changes.
Mm,
Um, I'm not afraid of
Not
changes
afraid, not
anymore,
afraid.
is how the
Yep.
song
I love
goes, and
those.
it's
Gosh, you have
beautiful.
multiple theme songs, so I think they're great. We have to put them somewhere, post them somewhere. They're really good. So, last quick and gutsy, because I know I've kept you over quite a bit. If you could get one celebrity or influencer to talk about or endorse Tools for Peace, who might that be?
Glennon Doyle. We love you.
I do love Glennon Doyle, Abby Wambach, Amanda.
Right, you could be
I
on
love
her
We Can Do
podcast,
Hard
right?
Things, but
Right.
I was actually going to say Jim Carrey because he's so
Oh,
in
it's
tune
great too.
with
Yeah,
meditation and
is it?
mindfulness, and he's also hilarious. He's an idol of mine since I was a kid, and but he's so embodies this work. So I would actually say Jim Carrey. I know you thought I was going to say Glennon Doyle, but I'm going to go Jim Carrey.
They're both great choices. They're both great choices. And I learned recently, even though he claims to be such a naysayer and so negative, and I think he is, but has been practicing meditation for probably 50 years, is Jerry Seinfeld. Surprisingly enough, I
Oh,
No.
learned
cool.
that
That doesn't
recently. It does,
surprise me at all.
isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Because comedians are in the moment.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was really interesting,
exactly.
and he's been doing it forever. So I before I thank you and sign off, and I know Abby, you got to run, but how do people reach you? I know you mentioned it before, but give it another plug.
Yeah, so our website is toolsforpeace.org, and it's tools, FOR, for peace. And you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and email us at info@toolsforpeace.org. Um, and yeah, and we just, yeah, support comes in all shapes and forms. And there are moments when we're happy to be generous. There are moments when your generosity to us is to support our fee-based programs, whether that's a corporation or anything, so that's what's going to keep us going, and your donation.
Love it. So I just got to take a moment to thank you both. This was a truly inspiring conversation. I appreciate your patience in the beginning, and I can't say enough good things. I'm closing out this podcast truly feeling at
Oh,
peace.
thank you so much,
Yay.
Laura, for having us. We love talking to you. We love being on. Just really appreciate you.
Yeah, beautiful. And thank you, Abby, for the work, or Abby, for the work that you do for Tools for Peace on the board, everything that you give, and Laura for being such a compassionate leader with this
Yeah.
podcast. I mean, nonprofits need support right now,
Amazing.
so much, and we're doing the
Yeah.
good work.
Mhm.
And we want to do less work raising funds and more work doing the work, the good work. And you're
Thank
helping.
you. That's my goal.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's my goal. It's really my wish. Please go to smallandgutsy.org to check out all of our episodes. And if you are so inclined, please purchase some Small and Gutsy merchandise, consider sponsoring an episode, or making a donation. Both are tax deductible to help keep us going and spotlighting these great organizations. The opinions and viewpoints expressed by our guests are independent and do not reflect the position or views of Small and Gutsy. Of course, we can't take responsibility outside of our own vetting of the organizations we interview, so before you sign on to support or work for them, we encourage you to do your own due diligence and research them as well. I want to thank my partners in this endeavor, the Intrinsic Group, my incredible board of directors, Brianna Carmichael, John Gatto, Lucy Mello, Ari McCoy, Melissa Greitz, and Serena Rajabian, who believed in me and this project enough so to sign on and to support this effort, and all the folks, friends, and family who have guided and inspired me. And thank you for listening. Together, we are spreading social impact, and you can help us. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends. And don't forget to email me the name of any organization you feel would benefit from being interviewed. From small and gutsy to big with impact. I'm Laura Witkoff, and thanks for listening.